Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of The Read Down for our special live post-debate coverage of the final presidential debate in the 2020 U.S. presidential election. My name is Alex Mohajer. I'll be your moderator this evening, and I'm joined this week by my beautiful co-hosts, Jonathan Welch. Pull yourself up.
Sorry, Alex. Hi. Oh my God.
Hey, girl. I don't do that anymore, but if I did, I'd be right there with you.
I wouldn't blame you if you decided to. It was rough.
TikTok, and also our co-host, lovely co-host, Ebony Murphy-Root.
Good evening, Alex. I have some kombucha for you. Don't worry.
Yay, kombucha. It's good to see you, Ebony. How's it going?
Pretty good. We made it through.
We're alive. And this week we are joined by our very special co-hosts, our guest panelists for the week, our friend and my dear friend from 800 Democrat, Rance Collins.
Oh my goodness, I am so excited to be here, and I have no idea what I'm going to say, but it will be interesting.
You and me both. Good to see you, Rance. And this is, of course, a crossover event with 800 Democrats. So this is streaming on the 800 Democrat social. So hello to everyone from 800 Democrat. And finally, our very special panelist this week. She's a comedian extraordinaire. It's Danielle Perez.
Hi. Thanks for having me, guys.
Hi, Danielle. How's it going?
You know, I wish Operation Warp Speed was happening now so that I didn't have to watch any of that.
Well, Operation Warp Speed it is, because I feel like this election has just been taking absolutely forever. And as of right now, there are 12 days left until the 2020 presidential election. And tonight was the final debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, or as I like to call him, the Freeloader-in-Chief. And it was a much more measured affair. But I'll note, before we get into talking about the debate and the things that went down during it, that as of tonight, nearly 50 million people have already voted in the 2020 election, breaking all early voting records in history. And so people are already voting, and it's been a historic turnout. So as we go into this debate tonight, really, this was less so about convincing people to come onto our side as it was about driving people out to the polls, I thought. But if you have not yet voted, please do it early, and let's see this through to the end. But let's talk about the debate tonight. So first and foremost, guys, the tone and tenor of the debate tonight, the debate tonight was a little bit more measured, a lot more measured than the previous debate, which was a shit show. We know that the rules have been changed because the moderator, Kristen Welch, who I thought did a fairly good job compared to Chris Wallace, although I think she had less to deal with, had been given a mute button so that she could mute the candidates if they talked over one another. And there did seem to be Donald Trump, whatever his team gave him, whatever downer his team gave him was working tonight, because he was much more polite. So just in terms of tenor of the debate, what did you guys think overall? And let's go clockwise. Jonathan, what did you think of the tenor of the debate overall?
Well, I think, first of all, this was, as you said, it was a much more measured debate. And I think that logistically speaking, some of the things that were put in place, as dumb as maybe they seemed, like a little too late, with the debate commission basically saying that the microphones would be muted, those things actually did matter. It did seem as though Donald Trump, who, again, when he walked out in the beginning, was really slow. That happened last time. He just seemed like he didn't really want to be there. He wasn't necessarily excited to be there. What I got throughout the 90 minutes, and it was, I did joke that it was a rough 90 minutes. It wasn't as rough as the first debate that we watched. I think that, all of our blood pressures were like really rising that night. But what we saw was a man who was on the defense pretty much the entire night and peddled in conspiracy theories, didn't make a lot of sense, spoke in grand generalities that were just way too broad to matter to people. And the contrast was very clear. And I think that you were able to see a very measured and clear Joe Biden because of some of those logistical things that were put in place, but also because basically he's the one who's very clear-headed in all of this. So, there were moments where I think I would have wanted to see Joe come out and hit harder. I'll always feel that way because I think that he gets beaten up quite a bit. And it's very unfair, especially when it comes to his family and some of the blatant lies that are put out there. But I think that he did a very good job, didn't take any of the bait. And this was something in which you could watch and see a very clear contrast.
Ebony, what do you think about the tenor of the debates? Did you want Joe Biden to come out a little harder than he did?
Yeah, I always want Joe to be Mean Joe from Scranton, but he's not going to do that. He's going to be the nice, affable grandfather. That's what he's developed into, the elder statesman. But I thought he was able to defend his son quite vigorously. And he got some really good points in about what he was able to do throughout his career, throughout his 8 years as vice president to President Obama, and set his goals, right? He was very clear that I wasn't the president for these past 8 years. I had to kind of go along with my president, but here are my goals, here are my plans. I think he was very clear. He was measured, he was cogent, and he seemed confident. So I was happy for him.
Yes, indeed. And Danielle, thoughts overall about the tenor of the debate?
I really appreciated that even though we all want Joe to hit harder, he did stroll out onto stage removing his mask, which I thought was Shady Joe, and I appreciated Shady Joe. Remember his sunglasses, licking ice cream, Shady Joe? I enjoyed that. That was a nice little just kind of dig up top. Yeah, I think Donald Trump was just steaming the whole time, just furious that, he just knew that he couldn't go off the rails, to be muted. That was actually surprising that Donald Trump actually didn't get muted. But I like that Joe was clear about his message, what he's going to do as president. You know what I mean? Like so many of the questions were like, what is your plan? And Joe has a plan. And it's really clear that Donald Trump doesn't.
Yeah, plans have never been Donald Trump's strong suit. Rance, what did you think about the presentations of both the candidates tonight?
I think Joe Biden did an excellent job today. I was actually really surprised, honestly. Last debate, we didn't really get a good look at what Joe Biden can do in a debate because he was run over constantly by Trump's interruptions that, he didn't really get to talk about his plans and his ideas. And the great thing that happened in this particular debate is that even though, Trump was on some type of downer, even when he's sedated, Joe Biden just made him look like a fool because Joe Biden has plans. Joe Biden has ideas. And in a way, I think that this was a much better debate for Joe Biden, even though Trump was calm a lot of the time, because instead we started to see Donald Trump slowly unravel over a period of an hour and a half. And we saw how much he absolutely cannot handle the pressure that he has in his job. And the fact that he kept trying to blame blame Joe Biden for what he hasn't done in 47 years, this, that, the other. The fact that he kept falling back on those things when he's been a president for 47 months and has had more power than Joe Biden has ever had in his career. That stuff doesn't play anymore. He can't play outsider politician anymore. At one point he said, look at these politicians. Donald Trump, you're president. You are a politician now. And you can't play that line anymore. So, he was trying to play the hits to the alt-right, but the alt-right's the only team that hit plays towards.
Right. And it comes off really whiny and sort of incoherent, this line of strategy. And let's look at some of our initial comments from some of the viewers. Bulk Odasangle says Biden 2020, one hundo. Brenda Lee, Biden Harris, hearts and love and American flags. Susan Shu says, hi, my name is Susan. And I must confess, I didn't watch the shit show, but I am so here for the read down. Thank you, Susan, for joining. We love you. And Christopher Drago has a comment. Trump still no health care plan, and the kids in cages said they are well taken care of. Ugh, vomit and sad and angry and sweaty forehead face. Randy Tepper is Biden 2020 all the way, and so is Joseph Malham. So I think I'm going to touch on that, Sharon. Oh, sorry, Christopher Drago. Trump said there was a cure for COVID-19. Dangerous and not true. Sharon Lederer made the comment about the kids in the cages. So we're going to talk about substance here, and let's go through and talk about some of the issues that were presented tonight. First and foremost, COVID-19. We had a discussion about COVID-19, and I thought Donald Trump didn't do a great job of defending his record. And Joe Biden was very clear. 220,000 lives have been lost. And if he were president, that he would lay out a plan right away. Did you guys think that this was a strong point for the president to just say, let's open up? And the line that I jotted down was Donald Trump saying, we are living, I think he said, we are living with it. And the response from Joe Biden, that we are learning to die from it. Let me make sure I have this quote. Learning to live with it, Donald Trump said. Joe Biden responded, we are learning to die with it. I thought that was a very strong response. What did you think, Jonathan, on COVID?
So, I think what is really important is that Donald Trump consistently glazes over the idea that, or not the idea, but the fact that 200-something thousand Americans have died. And it's this constant reiteration that he believes 2 million could have died. I mean, that is very clearly if zero action had been taken, and close to zero action was taken. I mean, over and over, whether it's on the health aspects, the scientific aspects of COVID, or the economic downfall that has come from COVID, he fails at responding to what is actually happening, and hasn't had a response the entire time. So, really he's leaning on a very, very weak crutch that doesn't help his campaign. I think that people really are hurting. We all are. I mean, we're all, first of all, scared that we're going to get this, or the people that we love are going to get this. It's not over. So for someone to just flippantly say we're learning to live with it. Yeah, we're doing the very best we can, but we have absolutely no direction. And I think that when you see somebody get up there and say those things and say, "Oh, we're learning to live with it, blah, 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 it's okay," and he kept doing. First of all, get the man an accordion, okay? With this, nobody does this. What is this? What are you doing? I can't fucking stand the man, but I was
do this for just everyone.
What is this? I was saying,
it's like a drunk
Alec Baldwin
it's like
take
a
note.
drunk clap.
Yeah.
Of like a sorority girl, like, yay!
Well, I was saying that he moves much in the way that like a puppet or a marionette moves, like, with the hands all the time. And it's quite appropriate when you consider that he's a puppet to Vladimir Putin. But, the basic thing that I keep coming back to when it comes to COVID is that there has been no response, and we are worse off than any other country in the world. And we didn't even travel to any other country in the world because of it. So, we really have to get our house in order. And I think that people across the country do feel that. It's reflected in poll numbers. It's reflected in the enthusiasm for electing Joe Biden, and it's reflected in early voting numbers.
Ebony, thoughts on the COVID-19 arguments that were presented tonight?
Most disappointingly, this president, after 7 decades, cannot even fake empathy. He's utterly lacking in compassion. It's almost inhuman how he's unable to even fake it, unable to drum up any shred of feeling for the many thousands of families who've lost a loved one. He can't even pretend, right? He can't even say, I wish I'd done better. He's utterly unable to do that. And so if you're somebody who's just looking for that shred of humanity in your leader, in your president, Joe Biden's got to be your man. Trump doesn't have a plan. All he can talk about is Nancy, dancing in the streets of San Francisco, when we know that really what she was trying to do back then was tamp down on the horrific anti-Asian sentiment that was going on. And, what was he even talking about, Nancy? So he had a chance to say, look, I'm the president, I'm the leader. I wish I'd done better. You can count on me. But he couldn't do that. All he could do was focus on other things, ridiculous things. So that lack of humanity, that lack of empathy, that lack of compassion has got to count him out on this.
That was my impression of Nancy Pelosi dancing in the streets in San Francisco. I thought that you're right, Ebony. I thought there was just no compassion. And I think when Joe Biden looked straight to camera, which he did a lot tonight to great effect. And by the way, I got like I don't know if it's just a junk email that the Democrats send to everybody because they want you to donate, but they're like, here's our survey about what you want done during the debate. And I answered every question as if Joe Biden was personally listening. And I wrote in my responses, Joe, just look straight to camera and talk straight to us, please. And he did tonight. And it's because he read my email. But, I thought that when Joe Biden looked straight to camera and said, those of you who are, you're waking up and you don't have your partner next to you anymore, and you don't have your loved one, and he's talking about empathy, and he's relating to the loss that people are experiencing, not just the people who have lost a loved one because they've died, but the people who are experiencing trauma and loss right now. We are all still ongoing with this trauma, I think. And then Donald Trump responded with something like, typical politician. And I just thought that was another sort of crass, crude, callous, sociopathic presentation by Donald Trump. What did you think, Danielle? Did you think that do you feel like you got answers about COVID-19 tonight and that Trump did himself any favors?
I didn't get any answers from Donald Trump, that's for sure. He said he got treatment. Some would call it a cure. It's like, oh my God. Can the man just tell a truth? Is he capable of it? Like you, Alex, and Ebony said, just like Trump's lack of empathy, to mock Joe Biden's actual empathy, right, and care for people who have lost loved ones to COVID or are just experiencing loss right now and dealing with the tragedy that is COVID-19. I mean, it's just wild to me that he thought that was appropriate or okay or somehow would curry favor with voters, like that disposition.
Yeah, yes, totally. I think that you're right. And I think most people aren't buying it. Rance, thoughts on COVID?
In general or towards the debate? Because I don't think COVID's that great.
You've been taking your social distancing very seriously. I will, in your defense, although no one's attacking you, you've been quarantined up at home. But anyway, go on.
Yes, no. I mean, I'm clearly not making light of the coronavirus. I just want to make sure that's very, very clear. Apparently, Alex and I are now in a debate. How
do I do a split screen with just you and me?
Split screen of us yelling at each other. I think that when your argument is, well, more people could have died, it's not a good argument, you're fighting a losing battle at that point. I mean, 220,000 Americans have died of COVID-19, and it could have been as many as 160,000 less than it is. So when he says 2 million, that's if we had done nothing, and we did basically nothing as a federal government. The responses that helped mitigate the deaths were on the states who put in the correct health and safety measures that the federal government didn't bother to put in. Trump has nothing to show for on the coronavirus other than the fact that he has been callous and unfeeling the entire time that this plague has been decimating our society. And so him saying that more people could have died, I mean, what the hell argument is that exactly? That's a losing argument. It was what that is. He still doesn't have a plan, just like he doesn't have a plan for healthcare. I mean, he's been telling us he has a healthcare plan and he's going to show us in 2 weeks. He's going to show us in a couple of weeks. Tonight he said we're going to figure one out. I hope everybody took note of that moment. He admitted that he didn't have a healthcare plan tonight. He does not care about the health and safety of Americans. He does not care whether or not you die from COVID. The only thing he cares about is if you pump up his fucking ego. I'm so sorry.
We use the F word on this broadcast. So if anyone's watching and has young children who are offended by the F word, you've been warned. I think you're right.
I mean, sometimes you have to. It's the point.
I mean, look who the president is, right?
Trump is an expletive.
Yeah.
But remember, I just want to say, he did say that we're going to get beautiful healthcare. Beautiful healthcare. I mean,
we're gonna get
but that.
If we're gonna get healthcare, we might as well have it be beautiful.
I'm sorry. I know
I don't need it to work or actually cover, my pre-existing conditions. I just need it to be pretty. So
I'm so sorry. I'm on a little bit of I'm on something right now. It's coffee, but anyway. When he says 180 million people have these beautiful healthcare plans from private insurance, oh, well, that's really great. There's 180 other million people in this country who are not going to have healthcare at all. So he basically just says he only wants 50% of the country covered, period. And those are the only people that are going to be able to afford it. He does not care. He does not care.
But also, Rance, I just want to add that, like, the people who do have those private plans, those plans were significantly made better and more effective through the Affordable Care Act. That because of that existing, private insurers had to cover pre-existing conditions, had to bring costs down, to the consumer, and had to go through a number of regulatory measures that would essentially just be stricken away if Trump and Amy Coney Barrett get their way.
And look, here's the thing, and we have a comment. It's the same big fat liar Trump, says Jorge. Thank you for that. Nick is saying, I think Trump did save lives by shutting down China. Definitely not his intention to give him no credit. Let's be really clear about this, because this is definitely one of Donald Trump's defenses about it's his only real argument about his handling of the coronavirus pandemic. Donald Trump did not shut down travel to and from China. There were still plenty of exceptions. Tens of thousands of people were still traveling to and from China even after his ban. And we now know that the virus came to the United States from Europe. So that ban was essentially feckless. So Donald Trump has done nothing to curb the coronavirus pandemic. His other argument is, let's save the economy. We got to save the economy. We can't hide in a bunker. That's more of a Bernie Sanders impression, but we can't hide in a bunker.
A bunker.
Yeah, I got to work on it. But we can't hide in a bunker like
I have chills. I'm getting chills.
Sorry.
Joe Biden's response to this, which I did write down, was, we ought to walk and chew gum at the same time, and we ought to equip schools and businesses to reopen. And I thought that was very strong. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other things that were brought up tonight, particularly, let's see, what else? All you teachers out there, Donald, just a quote Joe Biden said, all you teachers out there, not that many of you are going to die. Come on, Joe Biden, come on. He does a lot of that. Come on, give me a break. Malarkey, which I think is very sort of sincere and sweet.
Someone took their Metamucil tonight, okay? He was dropping those malarkeys, put in Donald Trump on notice.
Come on.
Spicy Joe. My favorite Joe.
Spicy Joe, not Sleepy Joe.
And he did. I thought Joe Biden really came into his own during the second half of the debate. He really soared, and that's when we saw a little bit of Angry Joe. And Angry Joe is the best Joe, because he's just that he is armed with moral clarity and the truth. And you can't say he's not a man of honor and distinction and dignity. And so when he gets angry, you believe him. I thought he was very effective when he was like that. But the second part of the debate talked about foreign election interference. And I thought this was an important topic. As we now know, Russia and China and Iran have been taking steps to interfere with the 2020 presidential election. And this was the portion where Donald Trump started to try to say that Joe Biden makes money from China, or his son makes money from China and Ukraine, and the emails, and it was just not sticking. Did you guys think, and feel free to just jump in if you have a thought, but did you guys think that this stuck? And frankly, if someone attacked my son, I don't have a son, probably might not ever, but maybe I will, but I don't have one currently. If I did, and someone was debating me on a debate stage and they started attacking my son or my family, I would look them straight in the eyes and tell them to go fuck themselves. And I think that Joe Biden showed a great deal of restraint. But what did you think about this section of the debate?
Well, I'm going to jump in and just say that first off, Donald Trump was the aunt that I think we all have at Thanksgiving dinner who's like, I can't believe, don't talk about that woman. You know who I'm talking about. I can't believe you brought her up. You know, like just cannot stop talking in conspiratorial language about Joe Biden's only living son, Hunter. It's disgusting. And it's bait, frankly. You know, it's put out there so that Joe Biden would potentially lose his cool and say something about the Trump children who have been profiting off of this presidency since the day he took office. And even before that, I mean, this was, a marketing ploy in a lot of ways. So, I really think that, that he kind of stayed strong. And I really appreciated also that Joe Biden mentioned that Donald Trump pays more taxes to China than he does to the United States and has a secret bank account in China. I think that that's something that we need to keep reiterating, that like no American president should have a secret foreign bank account. None of them have, even Nixon, and he was corrupt as fuck. So come on.
Jonathan, but he's a businessman. He does business.
Yeah, right. And he's so good at it.
It's like all businessmen do with their briefcase, Like I'm going to the office. Like what? Like it just is so wild the way the president of the United States speaks.
He's basically like the politics version of Three Kids in a Trench Coat, yes. Saying that they're, like...
They're going to go under
I'm the dad. Like, no.
Yes. Ebony, what do you think about election interference and these weird attacks on Hunter Biden's son? And I'll note that Joe Biden's response was also that this is Russian misinformation. And when Trump tried to be like, again with the Russia hoax, Joe Biden said, that's absolutely what it is.
I believe it's pronounced Russia. Russia is the pronunciation.
Russia.
Still, he said nothing about Putin, nothing, ever. He just dances around it. But, the gall he has to speak about anybody's kids when his kids, Jared, Andrew Giuliani, are all walking around the White House employed, not taking a salary by the government. And Tiffany this week went to give a speech to some LGBTQ for Trump thing that was maybe the saddest I've ever seen.
Just LGBTQ. She missed the T.
No T.
How can he talk about anybody's kids? How can he say that anybody is engaging in nepotism when his whole family is there? He has no shame. He's utterly shameless. And he looked right to Pennsylvania and Ohio and maybe Texas and expected all of those states to believe him. Wild.
No tea, no shade, said Tiffany Trump. We got a couple more comments. Nick, I learned this week about the bank account. Pat Martin, remember when poor Jimmy Carter had to sell his peanut farm? And I'll note that the New York Times tax story revealed that that Ivanka Trump is getting paid consulting fees out of campaign coffers. So the whole family is taking money out of campaign coffers. This is so wildly insane how corrupt this administration is. And the fact that he pays taxes to China, then accuses Biden of taking money from China and from Russia, which is just totally fake. And Joe Biden did, I thought, very well to say, I've released 22 years of my tax returns. Where are yours? And more of the bogus audit response. And now we know the New York Times is telling us that Donald Trump, first we learned from the New York Times that Donald Trump owes $421 million to whom we don't know. That debt is going to come due over the next 4 years while he's still in office. And now Forbes is saying that that number is closer to $1 billion in debts that Donald Trump owes to foreign entities. And I can only guess which ones. If we know anything about Donald Trump, he's a projector. And when he's accusing Joe Biden of taking money from China and Russia, and I have to believe that really means that Donald Trump owes a great deal of money to his good pal, Vladimir Putin, who he will not stand up to. And I thought that was another great point. Rance, you have a comment? You have a thought?
The thing that I think is so interesting about this attempt at a Hunter Biden Ukraine scandal is that it doesn't seem like anybody got together in a room and decided what the scandal was going to be. Does that make sense? It's like they all got together and said, like, let's just throw the words Ukraine, Russia, how's 3 million, 30
Emails?
million, maybe. Let's just like throw some numbers around. And Hunter, we'll use his name. And that's all. That's all they decided on. And he just uses those same words in different sentences and tries to create a scandal. Oh, and the word email, of course, because we can't have a scandal without the word email involved.
Emails. What are emails?
He references he made $3 million off of China and then doesn't explain anything that he's saying. You can't create a scandal off of, a word haiku. I mean,
just the saddest game of Cards Against Humanity, ever.
Is. It's like he just like
it's apples to apples
on the table and is picking them up and reading them at random.
Also,
Indeed.
everybody knows Joe Biden doesn't have any money. We all saw that Pete Souza documentary where he was going to have to sell the house for Beau. So we all know he doesn't have any money. Lies.
He was proudly the poorest member of the United States Senate for the time that he was serving in the United States Senate. And
isn't it
okay, but being a
that
poor senator is like being like the richest poor person.
yeah.
Biden didn't really start
He's
making
like
money.
written books, right? He gets like residuals. And
it's just
He
bizarre.
didn't really start making money until after he left office. And
Right.
this whole thing of being like Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton, for that matter, made money off of a book after they left office, after spending their entire lives rising to the highest echelons of American government through hard work, education, and sacrifice, that they should make some money off of a book while Donald Trump is scamming people, shipping jobs overseas, paying $0 in federal income tax and zero of the last 15 years, $750 in income taxes for 2 years, and that anyone would be like, but Hillary did, she made money off of her campaign speeches. Give me a break. This is such horseshit. I wish that the Democrats would do just a little bit of a job, and Joe Biden did do a little bit of that tonight when he said, stop talking about corruption and show your tax returns, and then we can talk about corruption. Show them. He did that a lot.
Well, he also did the thing where he mentioned, like, this isn't about my family, this isn't about Trump's family. Rance just left. He's had enough.
He doesn't care.
But he said, like, this isn't about my family or your family, this is about your family to the American public. And also, Trump has been lining his pockets with his properties, abroad, making sure that Secret Service will go way out of their way to stay at his properties whenever they're abroad, or to have foreign visitors come stay at his properties in the United States. Like Pat said, Jimmy Carter had to sell the farm. We thought Donald Trump was going to divest his interest in his business and have somebody else manage that, and he just hasn't. And this is just, it's corruption on full display, and I think that he's counting on all of us just being used to it at this point.
Mackenzie,
that's such an interesting point of just, it's like maybe the American people are just so worn down that this is normal. And it's like, this will never be normal. This is so unnormal. This is not normal. And I think the debate really highlighted just like what planet Donald Trump's on and what planet Biden's on, right? Biden's on Earth, he's cognizant of the realities of what we're dealing with, and he has solutions. He's got a plan.
Yeah.
It's so clear, that contrast between what's going on over in Donald Trump's world and like what's happening for the rest of us Americans.
And I think that Biden even said, like, where is this guy from at one point, which I thought was good. Biden got a couple good zingers in tonight. He was on it. Mackenzie Hussman, who literally can't take it anymore and just went to England for the rest of the year. Hi, Mackenzie, we miss you. Says, we can all expect another Trump quote book when this is all over. And I'll note, Mackenzie, that Donald Trump in his campaign, in his stump speeches across the country, is now threatening to just leave the United States if he doesn't win the election, because he knows He's going to jail.
St. Petersburg sounds real nice this time of year.
They've got
Does St.
plenty of
Petersburg
gold.
not extradite?
They've
Yeah,
got plenty of gold in that Kremlin, honey. They got
that's right.
plenty of
Listen, I saw the series finale of The Americans. I know how it ends. You just hop on that plane. Sorry, it is the best TV show of the last decade, so I should shut up.
Yeah, you really should. No, I'm just kidding. Jonathan, I'm looking at some of our texts from the debate. Joe Biden. Oh, Joe Biden. Joe Biden's what the F look when Trump accused him of selling pillows and sheets. Did you guys catch that? I tweeted, breaking, Joe Biden sells pillows and sheets. That was just par for the course for some of the like incoherence tonight.
Was that him like trying to defend the My Pillow guy?
It's the ShamWow guy.
Yeah, and Joe Biden did a lot of this tonight. Like, which I thought was good and kind of effective. Like, what is he even talking about? And if you really parse out the things that Donald Trump is saying, it's literally babble. It's like nonsensical. Like when talking about climate change, Joe Biden's plans were, we got the trillions of trees. To Donald Trump's plan, we got the trillions of trees program. We've got billions and billions of programs. He's just really not really saying anything. Did you guys? Let's talk a little bit about the incoherence of some of Donald Trump's arguments tonight in his presentation, which really just makes no sense.
Malarkey, poppycock, bad syntax, odd spelling. We can see a spelling, but I know it's misspelled in random capitalizations with his.
That's what he was writing.
Exactly. Just nothing. A whole lot of nothing.
Indeed, Rance, thoughts?
Trump is never completely coherent. I mean, this is exactly what I was saying a second ago with them not getting on the same page about what the Hunter Biden scandal is even going to be. Essentially, Trump just gets up there. He says a bunch of buzzwords that are going to play to his base, and he doesn't say anything that actually affects everyday Americans, which is what I thought Joe Biden did a really great job speaking to. I mean, one of the, I think the most telling moments in the entire debate was right when they started to discuss the $15 minimum wage, and you know, Donald Trump was trying to argue that it's like too much for some people to make or whatever he was trying to say, and then he got the pushback that said, "Hey, you have advocated recently for saying maybe you would do a $15 wage," and then he like reversed his position. Within 15 seconds, he gave 3 different positions on the $15 minimum wage, which I think says everything you need to know about Donald Trump. He's just gonna say whatever comes to his mind in that moment. It doesn't matter if there's a beginning, a middle, and the end. He's just going to work in the buzzwords and hopes that Fox News can clip a little soundbite out of it to play to his base. That's all he does.
Well, Rance, I also want to add in there too that he did say, "Oh yeah, $15 minimum wage. That's I support that." But that's up to the states. Even though Kristen Welker was pushing, you said this idea of a federal minimum wage. It's as though he doesn't understand that and Joe Biden brought this up as well during the debate. He doesn't understand that he's president of red states and blue states, that he's president of all America. He really doesn't grasp that, and he foists everything onto the states to figure out. He's not a leader. He's just a really bad manager, like the kind that you learn about, I'm sure, if you go to business school.
That was actually, I think, Joe Biden's strongest point of the entire night. Whenever he hit back at that, looked right at the camera and said, I may be a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be president for all Americans. That was, I stood up and applauded in my living room.
Yeah, the exact quote, because I wrote it down, is, if I get elected, I'm going to be an American president. I don't see red states or blue states. I see the United States, which I also thought was one of the strongest points of the evening. This was in response to what is a frequent, really, it's a campaign tactic and really propaganda point from conservative media and from the Trump administration, and now kind of the Republicans in Congress are sort of picking this up, is demonizing the left, the the left is looters and rioters. The Democrat cities.
Yeah.
Like, if you really think about how absurd that is, that we have a person in power who boogeymans an entire swath of people based on a political affiliation, as if people are just left or right, and people live in left cities or right cities, Democratic cities or Republican cities, that he's making COVID-19 or the economy or any issue a partisan issue when it's just an issue that affects all of us, is one of the most sinister, I think, and cynical things that has come out of this administration. And so when Trump bites back, or Biden bites back and says, I will be an American president, I think that's really, really effective. And I think it's the kind of messaging that people are looking for. Ruth Lefebvre is commenting on you, Jonathan, not a leader, a bad manager. Amen. Nick is saying prayer hands. Maybe he tried to do an emoji. But that was what were some other strong points of the night that you guys were seeing in terms of Joe Biden's performance?
Well, I want to revisit. Ebony mentioned it. Nancy Pelosi dancing in the streets of Chinatown, San Francisco, which sounds, first of all, like, there you go, there it is. Just in a pantsuit with a very tastefully matching face mask. Her dancing in the streets of San Francisco sounds like a great time. You know, I feel as though getting back to that, you know, one of the things that Joe Biden really did was highlighted the fact that Donald Trump, yes, he really splits us up. He's laying the groundwork for a civil war. And I'm not saying that to be, you know, to be alarmist. I'm saying that because it's as though they don't view us as American. And that is, you know, where we really can't end up having debate. We can't end up having discussions. You had Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri, who, yeah, he's a Republican and he won Claire McCaskill's old seat. So, you know, he's in a pretty solidly red state now. And he basically said that he wouldn't vote for anything if it was going to benefit blue states. You know, and just kind of creating this language around blue states needing a bailout when blue states are the ones who actually pay more into the federal coffers for red states to pull out. So, you know, Biden didn't go too deep in detail about that, but I think what was really important was that he did highlight that one of the reasons why we don't have COVID, you know, we don't have a COVID, oh my God, what is the word that I'm looking for? Recovery plan, or like another stimulus. There we go. Another COVID stimulus package is because there are Republican senators who are holding this up because it would actually benefit those of us who live in blue states. And we are also American. And that's something that, you know, as long as we keep saying that we are American, that we're united, I think that that's always going to benefit the Biden campaign in these closing days.
Yeah.
He had no problem coming to Newport last weekend, though, to Palmer Lucky's house to make some California cash. So that hypocrisy astounds, right? He doesn't mind coming here for that red state money down in Orange County.
Orange County, California, where I am?
Yeah, he was there this week. And, you know, it's funny, he shouldn't be spending his time doing that in the closing days of the campaign, right? Like, he says he has a ton of money, too. He said that during the debate, which I thought was...
raise tons of money. I could raise... So do it, Trump.
Let's see it.
Is that what this is about? And I really love that Biden said $43. That's our average campaign donation.
You got it in. And yes, we'll note that that Joe Biden has outraised Donald Trump 3-1, which is enormous. And some CNN commenter, I think it was John King, was saying earlier that Trump's supporters are much more enthusiastic than Joe Biden. Homie, the dude has raised 3 times more money. Donald Trump is actually pulling ad buys out of swing states because he's strapped for cash. And now we know it's because he's broke and he owes hundreds of millions of dollars to foreign countries. So
what's shocking to me about the fundraising, though, is they did so well in 2016, but they haven't figured out how to recreate Act Blue on their side. They've got something called Win Red, but it's not as good. And it's shocking to me that Jared and all of his NBA buddies aren't able to recreate that for their side. They're not bringing in those dollars from the QAnon citizens.
Well, and look here.
Color
and
me
here's the
shocked.
deal.
QAnon can't figure out how to get it together donations-wise. An anonymous Twitter account that just trades in conspiracy theories that make zero sense. I mean,
Can't figure out their
it's just
checkbook
like
either.
what kindergartner conceived of this whole campaign, straight up. Like, who is in his ear? Because it's like, I mean, it's just him, and that's sad and scary.
Can I say Donna? So Donna's comment. I'm glad you put that up, Alex, because I was going to say one of my favorite thing to happen in this debate was when Joe Biden said Abraham Lincoln over here is saying that he's the least racist.
And then
screamed.
he is the most racist. And I liked that Joe Biden called Donald Trump tonight without shame or fear, which is something that people have been reticent to do. He called him a racist. He called him a xenophobe. And those were appropriate, warranted labels that it's well overdue that this president be called out for those things. In response to,
Also,
Rance.
Trump was offended that he called him Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
Let's just remember that. When he called him Abraham Lincoln, he felt the need to stop and say something about that, as if it is an insult to be called the man who made slavery illegal.
Considered by historians, most historians, to be, if not the greatest president in the top three, consistently. And where's history going to leave Donald Trump?
Ugh. God, can we just forget?
He's number 45
But it also
right
speaks
now.
to how poorly
There've only been 44 people.
Right? He doesn't understand joking. He doesn't get sarcasm, which is disturbing.
I know, that was such an awkward and weird moment because it was just so clear that he had no idea what was that it was a joke.
Donald Trump doesn't have a sense of humor. And also, I think in the last debate, Joe Biden said, healthcare is on the ballot. This is a euphemism, of course. All of us understand what he means when he says healthcare is on the ballot. And Donald Trump was like, what are you talking about? Healthcare is not on the ballot. Like, he's so literal and has no sense of like poetry or speaking with any prose he's just an inept, stupid person. It's just really what Donald Trump is. He's just a stupid person, and that he is president of the United States still baffles my mind. But as we go into the final days of this election, we got 12 days left to go. We are hearing from swing states that this race is still very close. The Biden campaign is saying that this race is still very close. His campaign manager, Jen O'Malley Dillon, tweeted that this race is much closer than it appears, and that although Donald Trump is Joe Biden's ahead in national polls, that we don't look at national polls, we look at swing states. And a lot of these swing states that are going to be very important, the leads are within the margin of error. And actually, Joe Biden is doing is not doing as well as Hillary Clinton was doing in 2016 with Hispanic voters. And he's still underwater with, I think it's senior citizens, 65 and over. He's still underwater. So that's
not true.
He's still under. Yeah. Joe Biden is still underwater in a demographic, and I just don't remember which one it was.
It's white non-college.
White non-college, correct.
But Biden is doing significantly better in that category, which is a huge voting block. I'm not saying that we should.
The largest. It's the most reliable voting block.
I do think, though, that he could afford to, engage Latino voters more. I think Paula Ramos says really great stuff on MSNBC about what needs to be done to get that chunk of voters who came out hard for Bernie. And I think it can be done. I wonder who they could bring in to do that, to bring in those young Latinos who did get excited for Bernie. I think that we should work on that demographic. I think
Bernie.
It's kind of icky. I know that we're not Bernie fans, but I think that we need to engage young Latino voters the way we're engaging other demographics like young Black folks. It definitely needs to be done. We don't want to look at the look at those numbers and be like, why didn't we engage young Latinos better? I mean,
let's give a little pat on the back, though, to the incredible operation that exists in Texas, specifically with Latino voters and getting Latino voters registered and voting. Right now, Texas is within the margin of error in every single poll that has been conducted this month, and that's entirely because of the incredible Democratic Latino-led operations that have gotten so many people registered to vote who have never voted before. So I just want to say, like, that we can do more in certain swing states, but Texas has become a swing state because, yeah.
Well, look, the fact of the matter is that we can't rely on Texas. If we were to win Texas, we would.
No. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just trying to give credit where credit's due. That's all I'm saying. Sure.
While we've made great inroads in Texas, and there has been a great deal of effort to turn out the vote there, particularly by Beto O'Rourke, and much credit to him, and there's 1.6 or 1.8 million new registered voters in Texas since 2016. There's been a great deal of work. We can't rely on Texas. And what we do know is that it's going to come down to these swing states where it is still very close, and will come down to voter turnout. There has been a great deal of early voter turnout, particularly amongst Democrats. That is all very heartening. But we had these numbers and these polling numbers with Hillary Clinton in 2016, almost exact in some of these states, where she was ahead in Florida, she was ahead in North Carolina, she was ahead in Michigan. And so we can't get comfortable. And we know that Republicans will turn out to vote on election day, that they're not voting early. So while we are seeing an advantage in early voting, but that will be made up. The gap will be made up on election day when Republicans turn out to vote. So people who are interested in voting out Donald Trump, we've got some resources I want to get to people before we wrap up here. Let's see. Our very own Stonewall Democratic Club has started an action page for RBG. It's called the For RBG campaign. If you visit rbg.vote, we have donation links to flippable Senate seats that are the Stonewall endorsed Senate candidates. We've got text banking operations through Stonewall and the West Side Democratic headquarters. You can join these text and phone banks from anywhere in the country. Me and Jonathan will be doing it, maybe Ebony on Sunday, but we're definitely going to be doing it on Sunday. So feel free to join us. You can do it at rbg.vote. Phone banking and text banking to swing states on behalf of Joe Biden and Senate Democratic candidates. And iwillvote.com is also linked to on our rbg.vote page. So you can find out how to vote, where you can vote, make a plan to vote, and find out all you need to know as we wind down in this election. So rbg.vote, please visit it. And as we kind of near the end, because we're gonna wrap this episode up, and I'll let Jonathan prep that, but I want to go around and just do final closing arguments from everybody. Jonathan, final thoughts about the debate tonight and the state of the race.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm just so glad that I got to spend this time with you guys and debrief and just kind of get this stuff off of our chests. This is a really hard time, and I think we're really feeling it. Like tonight, I just kind of went into this debate feeling like I'm so tired, and I don't know, if I have much energy left. And the reality is, I do, and I think we all do, and we have to continue to push all the people in our lives. And that's really what it's coming down to now. Yes, we're going to be phone banking this weekend, and I'm going to be text banking this weekend, and probably doing that through the next week or so. Everybody needs to do, what they can, but this is a very clear race between a good person and a bad person. I mean, The Atlantic came out and endorsed Joe Biden today. They've only endorsed or this would be their fourth. They've only endorsed 3 candidates in their entire 160 years as a publication, and they came out to endorse Joe Biden. And they said the choice is very clear. It's a person who's decent and one who's not. Choose the person who's decent. A lot of things were going around on Twitter from the right wing this week about Joe Biden and his son Hunter, and they're really trying to exploit that relationship. There's a professional photo of Joe giving his son Hunter a kiss on the cheek and showing him love and affection. And, the whole line on the right was, is this the normal way that a father and son interact? Almost as though there's shame in that. my dad died when I was 19 years old. I'm coming up on being without him longer than I was with him. And he was an affectionate, smart, funny, thoughtful person, much like Joe Biden. And that's the kind of energy that I really miss in my life. And I feel, I want to give that to other people. And I also feel that that's exactly what we need in the White House. So, we're doing this because we need to restore compassion and decency to our country. So just remember that as you go out there and you fight for the next 11 days after this, that this is what we're trying to do. And we saw that on display tonight.
Ebony, closings?
I agree with Jonathan that we have to keep the enthusiasm going. And what I would implore people to do is find a couple down ballot races to support and spread the word. I spoke last week with Fatima Iqbal Zubair running in Carson in the district next to me. I just did a Women for Meg Wheeler in the state Senate in Massachusetts right before the debate. And I'm going to spread the word about her because these are candidates that I'm enthusiastic about. And so across the country, down the ballot, right, get people excited about the presidential election, but also these down ballot races, these state house elections that we can win, both in California and all over the country. Send these people $3, $5, whatever you can do, because it makes a difference in shaping the tenor of the whole country. So I'm going to maintain my enthusiasm. I'm excited about Joe, and I'm just going to keep that energy level up all week, all month.
Danielle, final thoughts?
Operation Warp Speed. Let's get Joe Biden in office. I'm ready to wrap this thing up. This debate was it just made the choice so clear. It's, again, decency versus indecency. And I'm ready for a return to some sort of normalcy. I'm ready for someone who's going to treat the presidency with the respect that it deserves and be a leader for our country. Again, donate to flippable Senate seats, right? Get those Democrats in office, phone bank, do whatever you can, make sure people, have a voting plan, but let's do it.
Rance.
We got 11 days.
Everything you need to know about the two candidates that were up tonight, you learned in the exchange. There are 525 kids who don't know where their parents are, and Trump said, good. That's everything you need to know about these two candidates. That's everything you need to know about their empathy levels and who isn't a good leader and who will be a good leader for this country. The Senate is just as important as the presidency, if not more so. And driving up the Senate races, the number of people we get voting for Senate, close competitive Senate races helps to swing states in Joe Biden's direction as well. It works all across the board. You fundraise for Senate candidates, you fundraise for the president. So if you go to 800democrat.com or follow us on Facebook and Twitter, you can find out how you can donate to our organization. And we are taking all of our donations and spreading them across the 8 most competitive Senate races. So please go donate, 800democrat.com, hit donate on our website. And if you're a fan of the TV show Schitt's Creek, we got a very special parody video dropping tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. that you're going to want to see. Let's just say Moira endorses Joe Biden.
And folks, I just want to say, I voted. Have you? Let's do it. Mm-hmm. Let's see this through to the end. Before we go, my name is Alex Mohajer. I've been joined this week by Jonathan Welch, Ebony Murphy-Root, Rance Collins, and Danielle Perez on this special live post-debate coverage of the final presidential debate on the Read Down by the Stonewall Democratic Club. If you like this show, please consider joining Stonewall. For $25 a year, you too can become a member of this fantastic organization and help us do the work of democracy. And before we go, there are flippable Senate seats. We can deliver the Senate to Joe Biden and make this a government that works for us. And in keeping with that, we spoke. We're gonna put this episode full interview up online. But here's a little bit of, and this is our closing of our conversation with Dan Sorensen with the Jon Ossoff campaign. Jon Ossoff is running for Senate in Georgia. He's got a lot of chance at flipping that seat, and we have a preview of that for you now. You guys can find this online at youtube.com/Stonewall Democrats, and it will be on our the full interview will be on our next week's episode of The Read Down. So that's been The Read Down. Thank you guys for joining, and please check out this this little interview that we did with Dan Sorensen.
And Georgia hasn't elected a Democrat to the Senate in 15 years. Or hasn't had a Democrat representing them in the Senate in 15 years. Why is John the candidate to change all of that?
When you have a senator like David Perdue, who has literally profited off of the coronavirus pandemic, did so like many other Republicans, like the other senator for Georgia, Senator Kelly Loeffler, who profited millions by selling their stock and investing in PPE and streaming services, and just really, and still claiming that they did nothing wrong. But we all know what they did. They focused on themselves and didn't do enough to prepare all of us. So rather than being able to do meetings like this in person, we have to sit in our homes and be able to make sure that we clean up the background behind us so it looks presentable when we're doing a Zoom video. So, you know, with John being able to maintain the message that David Perdue is literally out there for himself, that he is lockstep with Donald Trump, and what he's been saying and lying about the coronavirus pandemic. It's why the polling in this race has shown it consistently as a statistical tie, with John having a slight edge in the race. So we feel very confident, but like obviously not taking anything for granted, because we can't, about our chances in November, which again, with Georgia, we have two Senate races up for grabs. So it's really the best state for anyone to invest in, because not only is Jon Ossoff in a statistical tie with David Perdue, but Joe Biden is also in a statistical tie with Donald Trump, and Reverend Warnock, who was also mentored by Congressman Don Lewis, is currently leading in the pack in that special election. So we have an incredible opportunity in Georgia to elect not only Joe Biden to win in Georgia. We do not want to elect Donald Trump, excuse me, but also to elect these two great additions to the Senate with Jon Ossoff and Reverend Warnock. And if we do that, that means Donald Trump is gone. That means Mitch McConnell is no longer the majority leader. And we can actually get some stuff done in this country moving forward. So,
speaking of John's opponent, David Perdue, he recently mocked the pronunciation of Kamala Harris's name. Who was he trying to appeal to with that? Is there a demographic in Georgia to which that would be appealing? And how is John responding to that?
That's a great question. I mean, I think we all know what David Perdue was trying to do there. He's in the heat of this moment of the Trump rally, and clearly appealing to the worst of us, to the worst of society, quite frankly, in mispronouncing Kamala Harris's name. And what John and the campaign has been doing is sort of calling it out for what it is, with sort of this bullying, this insulting. He can't even apologize to Senator Kamala Harris. He only refers to her now as the senator from California. He knows exactly what he's doing. And so what John's been doing is just highlighting the fact that David Perdue is being divisive in this country, continuing to sort of spew forth racist rhetoric, and calling David Perdue out for what it is, just being divisive, when there's no other time in history where we actually need to come together, not only to address what's going on when it comes to the coronavirus pandemic, but also with race relations in this country, bringing forth a new Civil Rights Act, and making some serious reforms that our country desperately needs. It's because people are sick and tired of, pardon my language, the bullshit that we keep hearing from Republicans. So.
Yeah, and I'll note that we just got news on Wednesday that there was an arrest made in Maryland of a man who was planning to kidnap and kill Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. And I think this kind of divisive language and rhetoric doesn't help that kind of extremism that we're seeing. But
with just 12 days to go, what can we do? How can we help? What do you guys need? Do you need us to come out there? We can't, but tell us everything.
Anything and everything you can do. So whether that's going to electjon.com and making a donation, whether it's signing up for virtual phone banks, to volunteer. And as a reminder, this is going to help. Volunteering for John's campaign is also helping to drive up the vote for Reverend Warnock and for Joe Biden. So you're really doing triple duty in one act here. So making a donation, supporting Jon Ossoff's campaign, and volunteering virtually. Obviously, would love for everybody to be able to come together in Georgia to do this together, but here we are. So it's honestly better because you can stay in the comfort of your own home and dial from there. So.
That was our conversation with Dan Sorensen from the John Ossoff campaign, and this has been the Read Down. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you to our guests, Jonathan, Ebony, Rance, Danielle. Thank you, and we'll be back next week on Tuesday per our regular schedule. This has been the